night. Monday Night Football. Taylor Heineke and Washington taking on Seattle. Quick run through this third quarter, tied at 9. This is J.D. McKissick, one of his 2 touchdowns on the day. Washington up 15-9. Their kicker had gotten hurt earlier in the game, so they had to go for the 2, and they get it with Antonio Gibson. That's a big deal because it made it 17-9, which means that with 20 seconds left in the game, when Russell Wilson finds Freddie Swain, why is he so open?
Because he's stepping up.
Don't be ridiculous. It's because that's terrible defense. That makes it a 2-point game. Russell Wilson has a chance to tie it here on this 2-point play, and he's got the time, but he doesn't have a man open. And ultimately, it's picked off by Kendall Fuller. Washington holds on to win at 17-15. If the season ended right this minute, the 7th and final playoff spot would go to the Washington football team. That win moves them into that spot. And don't look now, but they have 5 division games left the rest of their way, including 2 against the Dallas Cowboys. That division is not yet done. And that is in large part because the Cowboys have been struggling, and that's our next stop. They'll be without their head coach Thursday night. As you now know, Mike McCarthy testing positive for COVID-19. He will miss the game against the Saints. Defensive coordinator Dan Quinn will serve as interim coach. Here's McCarthy himself with more.
Preparation, we got to complete it because it obviously gives us the best chance on Thursday night. I mean, obviously, I think it's going to be tough. Sit there and watch your team compete. That's that's difficult. Obviously, I had a little bit of that experience there at the end of 2018, and it was brutal to watch.
All right, so he's going to have to be on the sideline. Marcus Spears, let's just start with that part of this before I have Jeff Saturday. Well, actually, let me do that differently. My fault. Jeff, what do you want to say about Thursday night's game against the Saints?
Must win. It's a must win for the Cowboys. Listen, you're December football. You've lost 3 of 4. You're not running the football. Vegas, you couldn't stop them. You had 14 penalties for almost 200 yards. You can't do nothing right now. You better get it together. Listen, this is big-time football. Everybody kind of let you coast because the start you had. Ain't no coasting in December football. You better start playing and get this thing right because you don't limp into the playoffs if you want to do something. Cowboys, it's a must-win Thursday night.
So then let me come to my Cowboy, and that is Marcus Spears. Marcus, the impact of losing the coach and all of the other changes that go along with it. Again, Dan Quinn, he's the defensive coordinator, usually coaches from the booth. Now he's going to come down to the field. All that kind of stuff. How do you think that impacts their chances of winning Thursday night?
I'll be honest with you. I think they'll be fine without Mike McCarthy. I was more concerned about how many coaches would be unavailable. Mm-hmm. And coincidentally, they playing against the Saints who went through this with their coaching staff, which was depleted. I saw, and I would love to hear Jeff on this, I saw some of the miscommunication on the offensive line against the Las Vegas Raiders, and Joe Philbin was out of that game. So I wonder how much of those in-game adjustments, that's what we're talking about here. We're talking, and I'm not specifically talking about Mike McCarthy. I'm talking about all of these other coaches that may not be available because throughout the course of a game, the communication on the sideline is the adjustments. And that's the part that I'm more concerned about. Listen, when you look at the Cowboys, here's what I'll say. And y'all know how much I love this team. Y'all know I'm a big fan of this team. They are going in the absolute wrong direction. Yep. We just finished talking about the Green Bay Packers. We talked about the Arizona Cardinals and Tampa Bay ascending. Dallas Cowboys falling back. And the Washington football team playing better. Now, I'm not going to take away because Seattle is a bad football team. And they had to eke out a win last night to beat the Seattle Seahawks. So I'm not about to go crazy. I respect what the Washington football team has done. I'm still taking Dallas. But health, this COVID situation, and getting things back on track is vitally important. I'm with Jeff. It's a must-win against the New Orleans Saints, but it's also a must-get healthy and get your guys back to try to make this playoff push as well.
What more can you tell us, Dan Graziano, about the circumstances there?
Well, there is actually some good health news, right? I mean, Ezekiel Elliott and CeeDee Lamb were both full participants in practice yesterday. Amari Cooper back in the building, so it looks like he might be cleared in time to return to action Thursday. He missed the last 2 games, so those are positive things. But when you have this kind of outbreak, outbreak's a word that is charged. We don't want to. When you have this kind of proliferation of COVID cases in your building, you're subject to increased testing. So everybody in the building is getting tested today, tomorrow, Thursday. So what you have to watch out for with Dallas is who else tests positive. Hopefully nobody, but if it's anybody else, they're going to miss this game.
So I come to you here, and the family group chat there with Dak Prescott and the family and everything. How would you describe the level of concern for where we find ourselves?
No concern. All we can do is keep cooking. My man Dak is cooking every week. Every now and then there's a little blip here and there, but the issues weren't with him in this past week. So I do think that Randy Gregory is another player that they could see back. And I do think the issue with McCarthy being out, it changes everyone's responsibilities too. It's not only what other coaches have to be out. Coaches that are normally focused on one thing are going to have to take on more responsibility or focus on something completely different. So it might end up helping them. We don't know. We just know it's going to be different.
But how would you describe the level of concern for the team? I get it.
I don't think there's very much concern at all because a two-game lead on Washington. I know that we're poo-pooing it like it's not a big lead. They're better than Washington. They played Washington twice.
They got to a place this year where being better than Washington is no longer the objective. Are they better than Green Bay? Are they better than Tampa? Are they better than Arizona? That's the question.
Yeah, I don't think that any of us can say definitively that anybody is better than anybody this year in the NFL. Are they good enough to beat those teams in the playoffs? Absolutely.
Let me say this, because Marcus brought this up about their offensive line play. Let me tell you the other part that concerns you about the Dallas Cowboys. They're not doing what they did early in the season. They're going to a much more zone. I'm not going to get too into the details, but no more are they power blocking, gap blocking down, moving bodies. You think everything's kind of in concert, but ain't nothing physical coming down that hill at them. Kellen Moore has got to get these guys back to playing behind their pads, being physical. Steele's going to be out. That's bad news for the Cowboys.
But listen,
you got to play.
We can't get no stops on defense. Let's run it right at their face. We can't complete any passes. Let's run it down their face. When we special teams is a mess. Let's run it down their face.
I can't understand what you're saying, and you're sitting right next to me, so I can't fathom what this is like. Marcus, go.
Listen, man, what Jeff is talking about, I agree. We line of scrimmage players. But what I will say is this. They can. And listen, man, I know nobody cares. But when we look at the Dallas Cowboys, you got to acknowledge that 5 of their best players that makes a difference in every game has been unavailable. That's the reality. So if they are not going to, if you sitting here telling me that the Dallas Cowboys won't get Randy Gregory back, at some point get DeMarcus Lawrence back, Tyron Smith will come back.
Yeah, now we're talking.
CeeDee Lamb, Amari Cooper.
Now we're talking.
If you telling me you're not going to get them guys back, I'll tell you that they don't have a chance. But they will probably, and they have a chance. The Cowboys are not a bad football team. They've ran into a bad string of luck, and they haven't had 5 of the most important players on their football team available to them. I'm not going to not acknowledge that, but they do need to play better and get back to what some of Jeff said.
Sound like a fan.
I agree.
That's a fan.
The fact that there's 2 head-to-head games left between Dallas and Washington, I think that's better for Dallas
Than it is for Washington. Even I can't disagree with that. Okay,